Last subject of the day, we wanted to talk about what happened over this past weekend. So, Kate, why don't you do a quick recap?
Sure. Over less than 13 hours and nearly 1,600 miles apart, 2 mass shootings this weekend left 29 dead at least and 53 injured, and the country is reeling from more gruesome scenes of violence and death. On Saturday morning, a gunman opened fire into a crowd at an El Paso, Texas Walmart, a retail area popular among local residents and shoppers from just across the southern border with Mexico. Then early Sunday, a shooter attacked a crowd outside a popular bar in Dayton, Ohio, as patrons were just trying to enjoy a night out. One suspect is in custody in the El Paso case. Federal prosecutors were treating it as a domestic terrorism case. In Dayton, responding officers killed the gunman, police said. Both attacks follow a week in which Gilroy, California's Garlic Festival, Brooklyn, New York, and Philadelphia were all struck by gun violence, not to mention 48 people shot in Chicago this past weekend with 5 killed. Among those killed in the El Paso shooting, I'd be remiss not to mention, because this shooter had a manifesto that very publicly came out, and he drove 9 hours south to the border to make sure this shooting took place here. It's racism, it's terrorism. And among those killed, U.S. Army veteran Arturo, I'm going to get his last name. Benavidez. And he was known as just a local. He drove a bus in the local community. He was well loved by everybody. So this fucking coward coming down thinking with his manifesto and looking out for is killing U.S. Army veteran, the parents of small children who died protecting their children. I mean, it just doesn't get more cowardly and terrible than that. And and the Dayton shooting, 3 active duty airmen from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base sustained injuries as well while they were trying to evacuate that scene. And I also saw on Twitter someone who was deployed, somebody I followed in the veteran Twitter community for a minute, wondering from Fort Bliss, which was right near the El Paso shooting, boy, I hope my wife and kid are okay. So he's deployed and he's worried about his kids back home if they're okay because of shootings here in the U.S. It's just, this weekend, man, it's just like a dark shadow kind of, well, I think for everybody has been rolled over. It's just, when are we going to hit the point? I don't know.
Yeah, and it's frustrating to talk about, and like that's why we don't really get into the weeds, because it feels like you are just paddling upstream. You're swimming upstream and not going anywhere and continuing to go backwards with this type of shit, and it's ridiculous, man. Like, I went the morning after, just Sunday morning, I went to Walmart to pick up a basketball hoop for my daughter, and they're outside of the Walmart on 1604 in Culebra here in San Antonio. There was a group of people that were gathered around and they were huddled together praying, like outside of a Walmart. And just think about how strange that is. Like that you have to go to a Walmart to pray for people because of what happened at another Walmart. Like the idea that we've gotten to that point where that's normal in America is baffling. And like you're a little bit nervous. Like even though you shouldn't be, like odds are that day 40 million people shopped at Walmart and nothing happened. That's still not an excuse. Like It should never happen in America. We should never have that happen. And it's happening all the time.
Yeah,
all the time.
I think the thing that is just so sad to see, for me at least, and just gets me so annoyed, is the discourse that's happening, on social media or whatever. And it's just, people still want to be right, whether it's right or left. It's like, oh, it's don't take my guns, take their guns. And it's just these people who are just being mean to one another, right? And that doesn't accomplish anything. Being on the right side of this issue, meaning the correct side, like, oh, see, we were right. Like, who cares? I don't care who's right or wrong anymore. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat. And that's the problem. It turns into this political discussion. And I understand it is a hotbed, hot button political issue.
It is so political.
No, it is political because I think ultimately what has to happen is, some sort of new legislation has to come through. But it just seems like it's a case where people are more concerned that, oh, we're correct and you're wrong, and I'm going to tell you why you're stupid and I'm smart. But that doesn't accomplish anything. That doesn't prevent these shootings from happening. And it's unbelievable to me when you look at the statistics and the numbers that people can still just not seemingly do anything about it. And I understand this is not one of those situations where you snap your fingers and all of a sudden, boom, we eradicate mass shootings. It is a cultural problem. It is a political problem. There are a lot of things that need to happen, but I would just love to see the fighting among the two groups in this country to just cease and come together on this issue to find the common ground, to find a solution.
Well, that sounds nice, and
I
I
know,
would love that too.
yes,
but I
that's
think the
very
outrage,
idealistic.
the outrage is necessary and it's needed, and the rage and the anger is necessary, and the loud voices and the screaming is necessary because people at the top are just not doing shit about it.
No, I'm not saying you
and
can't be angry because I'm angry.
No, I know, but you're right. The discourse on it sucks, but ultimately, I'm sorry if you think that nothing needs to change, you're fucking wrong. Like, I don't care. I'll say it to your face. Like, you are just fucking wrong. Huge things need to change. Gun control, absolutely 100%. I saw a veteran I know on Twitter the other day post a picture of his AK the day after the El Paso shooting and saying, I bet this is going to trigger some snowflakes out there. Fuck you, you inconsiderate piece of shit.
That's what I'm talking about. That's the type of thing I'm talking about. Like, oh, look, I'm on the right. I'm correct.
Right.
And you're wrong. And me having a gun doesn't change anything. It's like, no, dude, doing stuff like that is not a good idea. Trying to get quote unquote, snowflakes triggered doesn't help.
It's crazy.
You know what's even worse than that? I don't know if you guys saw it on Twitter whenever it happened. There was people all throughout Texas who were doing the stupid ass open carry with like fucking AKs and AR-15s, like walking through Walmarts the next day, like with the weapon. Like, why would you do that to people, man?
Right.
Like, nobody feels safe with that. Seeing somebody with an open carry doesn't make you feel safe. It makes you feel nervous.
Right.
Like, no matter where you're at, that is not comforting. If you think that that's comforting to people, you're a lunatic.
Right.
You are an absolute... If you're the type of person who goes strong slide sling arms in a fucking Walmart, you're a lunatic.
I will say look for the classic line that always comes out now, Mr. Rogers, look for the helpers, that they needed blood for El Paso, and the line went around the block. Like, there was that, like, hundreds and hundreds of people showed up to donate blood. And then also the story of PFC Glendon Oakley has been making the rounds. He was in a section of the mall next to the Walmart when shooting started. And he just said, those play areas in the mall. So shooting started, people started running, and all these kids were just stuck in the middle of this play area. And he just started grabbing them, and he was carrying them out. He said he got about, and other people corroborated, he got about 13 children out into a safe area. And he said, I was just focused on the kids. I wasn't worried about myself, so I just put my head down and ran as fast as I could. They were anxious when they were in my arms. They were trying to jump out of my arms, but I was keeping them in as tight as possible. They're kids, so they didn't know what was going on. And once he saw the police, he said he let the kids go and pulled out his phone in case the police were going to shoot me. So I started recording while I was running. He knew running out, like, whatever, looking all crazy, holding all these kids, and he knew there was a chance he could maybe be shot, and he just did it anyway. So, there's a lot of people like that selflessly putting themselves on the line. And I'm sure there was a lot of soldiers there. Fort Bliss, back to school shopping.
Yeah. I think
crazy.
there's mostly good people in this country, in this world, and
Yeah.
we just gotta eradicate or attempt to eradicate all these people, all this evil, all this negativity, and that's not possible to eradicate evil, but hopefully the people who are mostly good can outnumber by such a great number that all this evil in this world kind of comes to hopefully comes to an end.
Yep, we have to target white supremacy with the same ferocity that we do radical Islamic terrorism. Like, we have to view it the same exact way.